Well, I am in for a treat today. I am going to get to test ride a 2023 Harley Low Rider ST, and I have been looking forward to riding this bike for a long time. I've heard a lot about it, virtually everything positive. It's got the Milwaukee-Eight 117 in it, which I've already experienced on the Breakout. Very impressive power plant. But this bike here is not a 2-up bike. It's a 1-up bike. It's maybe a little bit more of a cruiser. It's got this really cool looking fairing, and I'm going to show you some pictures of that from the front, and we'll do a walk around the bike after we get off it. And it's got some nice saddlebags in the back too. The styling of this bike is really cool as well. All right, let's start this puppy up here. That was smooth. Sounds like a typical Milwaukee-Eight. All right, time to go. It's kind of cool today here in San Antonio. I am on a Harley Demo Days test ride here at Cowboy's Alamo City Harley-Davidson. A couple of observations right off the bat. It's got mid-mounted foot controls. And what that does is it puts my knees higher up, makes me feel a little bit more squished up on the bike. And I am not a fan of these type of controls. That's just me. And so I feel a bit more crunched up than I would with more of a foot forward position. Engine's got some nice pickup to it. Now we're going to be on a short test ride today, probably 10-12 minutes. Maybe 10 miles or so. So there's a whole lot of things I'm not really going to be able to experience or comment about, but we'll talk to you about those things that we can. Ideally, I would like to take this bike out and ride 40-50 miles and be able to say, hey, this is great, blah, 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 it does well at this, does well as that. But really, all I can do is kind of give you an overall view of this bike with the test ride that we've got today. Wish it was longer. The seat actually feels pretty good. It's not as firm as the seat on the new Breakout, but it does have a nice feel to it. I like the instrumentation layout on this bike. It's very compact. It's got everything you need right down here. You've got your speed, you've got your RPM. I'm in 3rd gear. Got the fuel gauge over there on the left. Then you've got all your warning lights down here. You got your turn indicators left and right, your oil, your ABS, your neutral. Got your battery. Now, I don't know if ABS is standard. I'm assuming that it is. You've got your cruise control here. God, I love cruise control. I rode Harley for the first time about 6 weeks ago with a cruise control for about 300 miles and just absolutely loved it. It's got your turn signals are split, left over here, right over here. Some people like that, some people don't. I would kind of like them all to be in one switch, but hey, such is life. We've got the mode button over here on the left. This bike has gone 534 miles, range 117 miles until the tank is empty, and flashing 12. They haven't set the clock yet. The gear panel will show up once we get underway, and right now at idle we're doing about 850 or so RPMs. Back over here on the right hand side, we got the kill switch, we got the starter button, we got the hazards. Flip on the hazards, you can see them blinking away there. We'll take them off. Right turn signal, left turn signal. You got your horn right here. I'm not going to give it a blast right now. We'll wait till we get going. Normally Harleys kind of have wussy horns. I was impressed. We'll see if this one is. You got your high and your low, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, you got your cruise control here. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of power for you. Speaking of power, this bike puts out 125 foot-pounds of torque. It's 103 horsepower, supposedly. I think it's got a 28-degree angle of lean, 19-inch front wheel, and a 16-inch rear wheel. The front tire is 110 millimeters wide, and the rear, I believe, is a 180. One thing I really like is this fairing. Even with this passage in the front, the air vent, I'm getting very little wind on me, and I like that. Even less wind than with a windshield like would be on a Heritage. What bikes would I naturally be comparing this to? Well, I ride a 2019 Heritage Classic, got a 2015 Deluxe, and I have got a Kawasaki Vulcan S650. So that's kind of my, my reference set, so to speak. One thing I like about this bike with the mid-mounted controls is this snorkel or periscope down here on the right that has the breather on the front of it. Doesn't get in the way of my right shin. On the Breakout, it was pushing right up against it, and it was a little bit uncomfortable, but this is very nice. It's out of the way. It doesn't affect the way I ride this thing. Other notable things about this bike, it's got a 5-gallon tank. It's supposed to get about 45 miles to the gallon, so you're looking at a range of about 220 miles. And I don't really think you need any more of that. You're gonna have to stop and get off that bike anyway to take a break or what have you. The 5-gallon tank is, I would think, would be perfect. Braking power. It's got a twin disc up front. There's ABS on this bike. Front, you've got a four piston calipers, and in the back I think is a single piston. I think it's 300 millimeters up front and a 292 in the back. The word on this bike, it's got really good braking power, and with the equipment it's got on it, it makes perfect sense that it would. And once we get up here to the turnaround in a couple of miles, I'll lay on the brakes and give you an honest opinion of what I'm feeling. One thing I would change on this bike are the mirrors. The mirrors seem to be a little bit close together for me. I would like each one of them to be about a half an inch or an inch further out to give me some better visibility. You know, replacing mirrors on the bike is not really a big deal. Okay, we're in 6th gear and we're going just about 60 miles an hour right now, and we're doing 2100 RPMs, which is really good. For comparison, on my Deluxe, if I'm doing 60 and 6th, I'm probably doing 2600 RPM. That bike has a 103 in it, and roughly about the same, maybe 100 RPM lower on the Heritage Classic with a 114 in it. So nice, torquey, low RPM for the speed you get out of it, which in my book is a very positive thing. I think I'd like these handlebars maybe, I don't know, an inch or two higher. You can see you've already got a fairly substantial riser on this bike. I'm 5'11", weigh 220. I've got an average inseam, you know, nothing crazy. My arms aren't too long. As far as the riding position goes, these mid-mounted controls just lift my knees up a little bit higher than I'd like. I just went over a big bump, and with these mid controls I was able to stand up slightly on the bike, and I didn't even really feel that thing. Okay, let me put on the brakes here. Actually, these brakes feel a tad bit mushy. Not sure what that has to do with, but I am going to tell the guy here that manages these bikes for the test ride and let him know. One thing that was a little concerning to me when I reached down for that brake just now, I had to work around this snorkel. If I'd been riding this bike longer, if I'd owned it or was accustomed to it, I probably would have found it pretty easy, but I didn't, and that was concerning. Nice acceleration. There we go. Pretty good in the low gears. I'll try the brakes again when we get up here to this next stop. What I had right then, I think, was bike specific, and I didn't get that good solid stop that I was looking for. I don't think that's the way this bike is built to behave. This fairing so far has been very impressive. It lets just enough air through to keep some decent airflow on me, and here in South Texas in the summertime, that is going to be very important. For you folks up in Minnesota watching this video, I don't think you may realize just how important that is. I am really liking it. The other nice thing about this fairing is, and I gotta be honest, I don't like the looks of the Road Glide fairing, and I'm not a huge fan of your traditional Batwing fairing that you find on the Street Glide either. The fairing on this bike to me is quite attractive. It adds to the bike, and by far and away it's the best looking fairing I think that Harley puts out. This bike is not made to be a two-up bike. It only comes with a rider's seat. There is no passenger seat on this bike stock, and there are no foot pegs in the back for a passenger either. To be honest, I don't know if you can get a bigger seat. I imagine you could. I imagine you could probably also put some foot pegs on the back. The other thing that complements this bike really nicely are the bags. You've got fiberglass, rigid locking saddlebags. They are painted the same color as the rest of the bike. The sound of this bike, that's probably one of the first things you'd want to address. It pretty much sounds like any other Milwaukee-Eight, but I'll tell you, the exhaust that's on this bike looks cool. It's got the twin pipes on the same side. Leaves a bit to be desired in the sound department. I can't hear you! There's a lot of aftermarket exhausts out there that'll take care of that. Also like the wheels, pretty stylish. Just all around a well-designed bike. One thing I won't say I don't like, but I'm accustomed to more of a of a shorter seat height, maybe an inch or two shorter. I believe this bike seat height is 28 inches, something like that. I feel a little bit more comfortable getting on and getting off a bike that's just got a little bit shorter seat height. But this wasn't anything uncomfortable. Yeah, still flat foot the bike with no problem. It's just getting on and getting off, and I could see, you know, when you got all your gear on and you got your helmet and your jacket and your boots and you're swinging a leg over, if you had a sissy bar and you had a sissy bar bag on this thing, you know, you might whack your leg on it or something, but not a big deal. This bike also has LED headlight. It's got a LED tail light as well. The bike that I just test rode earlier today was the Breakout. This has a much more substantial and better looking tail light, in my opinion. The turn signals are your standard old regular halogen old school lights, and I don't know why Harley hasn't changed those yet. They really ought to. Speak of the devil, there is the Breakout right in front of me. So this bike has a much smoother ride. You don't feel every tiny little bump as I did on the Breakout, and I was truly amazed when I went over that bump and was able to take my weight off of the seat leveraging these mid-position foot controls, and I didn't feel it. On that bike up there, the tailbone would have taken notice. But again, they're two different bikes. That bike is a bit more sportier. This bike to me almost comes across as a combination of a sport bike, a cruiser, and maybe even a short distance tourer. I mean, it's not going to have the touring capability of, say, a Road King or a Street Glide or a Road Glide, but it's going to be a lot more comfortable than the other Softails if you really want to put some miles on this baby. Again, the other thing I noticed besides road feel is the lack of pressure on your chest because of the fairing, which after just 10 or 12 miles I've really fallen in love with. This bike shifts very well. Very smooth clutch, very smooth transition. Got a 6-speed transmission on it, which is very good. You wouldn't want a 5-speed with this 117 for sure. I'm impressed with it. Very easy to ride bike. Kind of overall likes and dislikes. I'm going to grade this bike pretty highly. Just little nits. Obviously, as we found out firsthand, there's some advantages to having the midfoot controls. I personally like them a little bit more forward. I'd put the mirrors a little bit further out. I think about the only thing I would do to this bike besides those mirrors is put a new exhaust on it. I'd have done the same thing with the Breakout too. I don't think this bike needs much. You've got your protection up front. I mean, you may want to put a phone mount on it or, you know, a GPS or something like that. It's a great bike. Better road feel to my liking. I think it's a winner. There's a reason it's one of the more popular bikes that Harley is selling right now. So we're going to power it down now. Boom. Throw down that kickstand. All right, let's do a little walk around here. One up, riding position. Nice tank. I like the design of this bike. You can see the twin disc, and you've got a much nicer tail light. Old school turn signals. Come on, Harley, what's up with that? Let's open these up. Oh, these are nice. Easy on, easy off with this lock. We've got a hydraulic piston in there, if you can see that, and then we've got, looks like something that velcros over the hinges, but this looks nice. Much better quality than the bags on the Heritage. They don't look like they would hold a hell of a lot, but I really like their design. I like that hydraulic piston. Nice. And you see the key lock there. A snorkel configured breather. I complain because they get in the way, but they really look cool. And I think if you rode this thing for a little bit, it wouldn't get in your way at all. This bike is mostly blacked out. I like this look. Just got a hint of chrome. This fairing is really sharp looking. Overall, a really nice looking bike. I think this bike is a winner. So thanks for joining me today on the test ride. Hope you enjoyed it. 2023 Harley-Davidson Low Rider ST. That's in their Softail line. Great bike. I give it 2 thumbs up. So thanks once again for putting up with me for a few minutes, folks. Hope you enjoyed the test ride. Also want to thank Cowboys, Alamo City Harley-Davidson for letting me ride this sucker. And this is Trip on 2 Wheels. And do me a big favor, folks. Until next time, ride safe and ride often.
Have you subscribed to Trip on 2 Wheels yet? Hey, what are you waiting for? Do it now.